we should always be mindful of what we say and do. I know the trend now is that I'm going to just do whatever I want and I don't care what anyone thinks, but that's not necessarily the best decision to make. What we say and what we do makes a huge difference. And even if we don't care what people think, we have to remember that God sees all and he hears all, and we never want to find ourselves in a position where we bring the wrath of God upon us. And as always, it's such a pleasure to be here for the Sanctuary Sunday School, the Sunday School Renaissance, powered by the Sanctuary Academy. And I want to ask you to go ahead and subscribe and share. If you're enjoying this, subscribe so that you don't miss anything, and tell your friends about us. So let's get into this lesson. It says, the blasphemer is stoned. That's powerful. A blasphemer is stoned. Now let's start with blasphemy. Blasphemy is anytime you say something or do something against something or someone that's sacred. It can be a statement, it can be an action, but it is something that illustrates disrespect, hatred even, and we have to be really, really careful. I am careful not to even do it jokingly. Slack statements about God, jokes, those kinds of things you really want to be steer clear of. I know even when I was younger, growing up, I wasn't even allowed to say, oh my God, because it was considered using the Lord's name in vain. We should always reverence God to the highest esteem, reverence God, reverence the house of God, reverence the people of God. We never want to be guilty of saying things, even when, and this is really common for people to say statements about a church. Even if it is true, I've said this before, even if it is true about the church or about the man of God or the woman of God, God is holding those people accountable, and it's not in your place to make those statements. So you always want to be careful. And what if you're wrong, right? So as things relate to God, as things relate to the house of God, we don't want to make negative statements, and we definitely don't want to take negative actions toward those things and find ourselves in a position of blasphemy. Blasphemous statements are statements like God has no power, or God is not real, or there's nothing to it. I'm uncomfortable even saying those statements. But yeah, so we want to make sure that we do not do that. So we see here in this lesson, we have a young man, and it says that he was the son of one of the children of Israel and an Egyptian. His mother was from the tribe of Dan. Shelomith is her name, and she was of the tribe of Dan. And the fact, even though his father was Egyptian, the fact that his mother was Jewish meant that he knew better. And that's where, Maya Angelou has a famous quote that says, when you know better, you do better. And sometimes, even for me growing up in church and I would be in the world, there were times when I did try to assimilate, but I knew better. And for me, I was that one person. Everybody else got away with it, not me. I got caught. So at some point I was just like, I'm going to get saved, because I'm tired of getting in trouble because I get caught every time I try to do anything. But he was out and he blasphemed against God. And they went back and they told Moses, they brought him in and they sat him down and they talked to him. And so listen to this, God told Moses to have this man stoned. And stoned was a method of death back then, where they would actually throw stones at you until you die, which is a cruel, harsh way to die. And God told Moses to have this man stoned. And then he sent a strong message. He said, and I want you all to make sure these people know that anyone who chooses to blaspheme against me, they will suffer the same fate. They will be stoned. And I don't care if it's one of you, or I don't care if it's a stranger. Whoever does this is going to be accursed, and the penalty for this is death. And again, a lot of these Old Testament scriptures, people dismiss them because, I'm 50 years old and I've never seen anybody stoned in my lifetime. However, I have seen the wrath of God come up on people. And you know, I'm that person. I'm a giver. I'm a helper. And there have been times when I tried to step in and I had to intervene. And God had to speak to me and tell me, nope, you leave that alone. This is my business. And I am doing this. And so you don't want to be in that position again. I have not seen anybody in the street with stones being thrown at them for committing sin. But there are still curses that come up on people. There are things that people suffer. And it's really painful when you have to watch somebody you love suffer these things. And sometimes even for me, because I've worked in ministry all my life, and I've seen people do things against me that hurt the ministry. And I couldn't even be mad at them for what they did to me, because I'm looking at you like, oh, I feel sorry for what's about to happen to you. So we need to be careful, again, how we entertain God, how we conduct ourselves in the house of God, how we entertain God's people, particularly God's leaders. So blasphemy is something that is very serious. And unfortunately, I'm seeing more and more of it today. So my caution to you is don't get caught up out there and go along with what you hear. Sometimes I've even been in conversations and the conversation goes in a direction. And I'm like, oh, I can't co-sign on that. I can't go along with you on that one. That's not right. I'm not about to get in trouble with God for what you're trying to do or what you're saying. So this is something that we want to be conscious of, and it's easy, you know, when you look at this, it sounds so horrible. Oh my God, I would never blaspheme. But remember, the enemy is cunning and tricky, and he can put you in a situation that before you know it, you have blasphemed. You've said something and you've done something that you know desecrates the name of God and undermines the power of God. And we don't ever want to do that. God is so loving and he's so powerful and he's so just. We can find everything that we need within the body of Christ and within the love of God. So there is never an occasion to speak against God, to go against God, or to turn away from God.